Hi guys, this year I've seen lots of complaints from people saying how their brains are basically deteriorating, and honestly I can also relate because I feel like I'm simply not the same. Even when I'm making these videos, sometimes I find myself stuttering a little bit more. So I've put together a list of habits that have helped me kind of get my mental capacity back. It sounds like I was going crazy, but I wasn't a little bit, and it's no surprise obviously that consuming short form content on TikTok and Instagram has had a very huge contribution towards that. But in the past month, I've felt myself going back to my previous self, and these are some of the habits that have helped me. Number one should come as no surprise, but that's maths, especially if you like it. But even if you don't like it, even adding 2 plus 2 is still mathematics. Don't feel like just because you're doing something simple it's not helping. Any kind of arithmetics that you can get into, that you can get yourself to do, should be okay. Personally, I try to do some maths every single day. Duolingo has a really good, a really easy is what I meant, math section now. But that's the problem, is that it's really easy. But if you're not someone maybe who doesn't enjoy maths, that can be an easy way for you to get into it. Also, the thing I love about Duolingo is the streak function, of course. So the streak can really motivate you to do it and stay consistent every day. If you find that Duolingo is not enough for you, I highly recommend finding a maths game on the App Store. The one I use is called Brain Games, and it has a math section. It has other sections as well that I will talk about, but it has a math section which I enjoy doing, and it has difficulty level which is easy, medium and hard. So if you're feeling maybe a little bit slow, a little bit tired, but you still want to get some training in, that's a nice way to start. If you are dead serious and want to take this to the next level, of course you can find math exams online that you can do, but personally I wouldn't do that because I don't have 3 hours to sit down to do once, even though I love it that much. Also, because basically the approach TikTok has taken to destroy our brains, I'm blaming this on TikTok, but it's not the sole purpose, but I would say it's like 70% of the reason why we are becoming that we are, is by fitting into those moments where you get bored, and then the easiest thing you can do in that moment is open your phone and then get on TikTok. So I feel like to combat that, we kind of have to get on the same level and have things that we can squeeze in while you're waiting in line, while you're sitting on the bus. So if you're doing a full math exam route, I feel like that might be a bit difficult. Also, if you're coming from this side where you've been brain rotting, are you sure you have the capacity to sit down through a 3-hour paper? Because we're even having problems sitting through a 2-hour movie, for example. I'll admit to that. But I've been getting better recently, and I'm enjoying movies much more. I'm actually going to start a diet for movies, but I'll talk about that in another video, on trying to be like more analog, I guess, and a bit less digital. The second thing I recommend for mental acuity is going to be another obvious one, and that's reading. Now, I know obviously this sounds like, oh yeah, you want to get your mental acuity back, then just read. But it's not just about transferring the words from the paper to your brain. We want to read with intention, not to sound cheesy, and the intention starts with what we're reading. Fiction is a great place to start. I personally do not enjoy fiction because I prefer to visually see what I'm reading if it's fiction than traditional book. But some people don't mind either, or they prefer reading. I personally, when I read, I prefer nonfiction. And I don't just mean self-help. Yes, I do read self-help. I'm going to read Atomic Habits, but I'm reading it to break it down here for you guys. Before Atomic Habits, I'm actually reading another book called Palaces for the People, which is talking about how there are no communities basically in more developed countries. As you can see, nonfiction does not have to mean you're reading David Goggins or Atomic Habits or, I don't know, How to Win Friends and Influence People, or what's that manipulative book, 48 Laws of Power. People hate that book so much. Now I want to actually read it. Apparently it teaches you how to manipulate people. So what we want to do, you're going to choose either fiction or nonfiction. If you're not a reader, I think I would recommend fiction because that's what I see most people recommend. Also, fiction is entertaining, while nonfiction is purely for educational purposes. But I personally still find it entertaining because I love to learn new things. I love to learn more about the world around me. But fiction can actually give you a deeper, depending on what you're reading, of course, because I do read smut sometimes. I don't even know for what reason, but that is not going to help your brain at all. Reading about some sexy Greek Italian 6-foot guy chasing after talentless, average looking, average career woman, and somehow he's obsessed with her. That is not going to, and they're also vampires. That is not going to help you, but it's enjoyable. If that's all you can read, it's a start, don't get me wrong, but ideally that's not where I want to start.
I recommend classics. The reason I recommend classics is because, one, they're popular for a reason. They've stood the test of time. Some are 200 years old, some are old. I was just reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which is like, what, thousands of years old. And if it stood the test of time, then it's going to be good. So that's an obvious yes. But more importantly, there is going to be a lot of, should I say, talk about it, like lots of critique, lots of discussion around that. So you find that on Reddit, on Instagram, on Twitter, or God forbid. So when you finish the book, I encourage you to form your own opinions about the book first and the characters, and then go into the spaces and see what other people have said. You can probably also find a workbook online that maybe a teacher maybe use for a class. If you're reading, for example, Oliver Twist, why is it the only classic book that can come to my brain? I don't read a lot of fiction, like I said, but let's try something else. Jane Eyre? Yeah, if you're reading that, I'm sure there's going to be lots of material because it's a book that's covered in schools. So you can find that material and actually try to work it out and see. And by the way, you don't need to sit down and write out like a whole essay about this thing. If the question, for example, is asking you to critique a character's decision, you can just simply write it down. Maybe just think about it. Just have a timer for 1 minute, for 5 minutes, and think about that. I don't really remember the story for Jane Eyre. I've seen the film, I don't think I've read the book, but I really want to give you a good example. I think Jane Eyre this guy was really mean to her. Oh, another story is making me mad. I don't want to think about that. But perhaps you could draw a parallel to the modern day woman who stays with a man despite how she treats her, and see if maybe in the time in which that book was written and now, if there are any parallels between why women stay with, for example, Jane, I think, stayed out of the compassion of her own heart. Can you believe that? Anyway, but the modern day woman might feel maybe scared of, she might be afraid of the biological clock, that maybe quality of the eggs is declining, maybe time is running out for her to have babies. And that might give you something to think about. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're most likely a woman, since men don't value women's opinions. But yes, so think about that. Is that something you care about? Is that see how we went from reading Jane Eyre and thinking about if we're going to find ourselves rushing into a relationship just because we want kids, and maybe give yourself some thought of, or what happens if I don't have maybe a guy by 40? Would I consider freezing eggs? And then you Google the price of freezing eggs. Is that something I would do? What are the implications of that? What kind of preparation do I have to do? And then all of a sudden, maybe you're in this deep dive of egg freezing, which this is making me actually want to Google all this. Maybe I'll put the price of actually doing that here. But it was £700 a year, I think. Last time I checked it, maybe £7,000 a year actually. Yeah, and can you believe apparently some companies offer this service to high-power CEOs or hyper. I don't know if that's progressive. Well, because I feel like they should just give them more favorable working environment so they can have their children and then still be able to work, especially since work can be done from home most times. But I guess these hyper people, they must be traveling a lot. Anyway, I digress. But did you see how we went from Jane Eyre to hyper CEOs being given a benefit of freezing their eggs? So that's what we're trying to do. This is why I don't focus too much on what I'm reading exactly. Even I don't read smart with the intention of learning anything, but if you're paying attention, if you're thinking hard, if you're reflecting on the things you're reading and consuming, there is always a message, can always lead you somewhere interesting and somewhere that reflects upon you, assuming you're living a normal, regular life like I am. Yeah. And if you struggle so much to read on your own, perhaps a book club might be also helpful, because then you'll have to be accountable to the people who are in the club with you, and you actually have to finish the book to go and discuss. You'll have hopefully some shame and you want to go there with informed opinions, so you can actually contribute to the discussion. And there are lots of online book clubs as well. I think every young celebrity in an online book club, I think you've heard all the talk about how intellectualism is going to become like the new status marker. Yeah, so I guess maybe these celebs were ahead of their time, because I think Dua Lipa has one, Kaya Gaba has one. I would personally be in a book club of a celebrity. I would prefer just to be in a less commercial space. So that is not something I would join, but I'm not judging you. It's just I would just prefer to be in something smaller and much more intimate, and ideally non-commercialized. Obviously, if you can support the person who is running it, that's okay. That's not what I'm against. But yeah, that's just my personal preference. Don't take it as advice. Number 3 on how to become smarter this 2026 is actually moving. Yes. So I knew this before, but I knew it in the sense that when you're healthy physically, the brain, it processes thoughts, emotions, and all that, like non-tangible things. But at the end of the day, it is a physical organ. it drinks, it not literally plays. I mean, it needs nutrients, it needs oxygen, it needs glucose to function, which means it has to exist in a healthy physical environment for it to be at its best, right? So obviously movement is a key element to keeping your body healthy. So in that sense, it was so obvious. But then I started to realize that I'm more consistent in the gym when I go to classes, and that's when it occurred to me. That's because when I'm in classes, I don't have to think. If the trainer says plank for 10 minutes, I can't plank for 10 minutes. I think the longest I've done is 3, but if the trainer says that, I just do that. So my brain is off. And then I realize why I'm inconsistent when I do it myself is because my brain is on. You have to think, first of all, you have to come up with a routine, and then you have to think about the things that you do. Then you have to choose, well, should I do 3 kilos today, or should I do 5 kilos today? I always do 1, just to put it out there. Yes. But my point is, when you're engaging in physical activity, your brain is actually turned on. Do you understand? So it's obvious when you're multiplying 573 times 5, that's obvious that your brain will be turned on. But it is not as obvious, unless it wasn't to me, that when you decide, oh, let me go to the gym, you have to decide what to wear, decide what gym to go to in case you go to different places. You have to decide what workout to do. Then you have to decide, you have to take several steps, switching up the weights, the mat, everything. Of course, your brain is turned on while you're walking to the gym. Yes, and then come back home. So just by the act of doing it, before we even embellish like I'm about to talk about, you are turning on your brain. You're doing something with your brain. Oh yeah, pun intended. You are training both your physical muscles and your mental muscles. And that is a good thing. That is what we're looking for. We just want to keep our brains active. Compared to the person who's sitting down watching TikToks, and you who has just gone to the gym, you've already done so much work. Your brain has done so much, which is why I personally recommend, if you cannot be consistent with the gym, just do what I do. Now, as you've seen, if I'm saying to do that, this is why I go for classes, which means I'm not using much of my brain, then why am I still doing it? So I'm fine to go to the gym to just get the physical element out of it, but then in a way I still use my brain to plan my workouts. On Sunday evening I'll plan all my workouts, so I'll go into my gym app and then plan them out, and I'll go into ClassPass and see if I'm taking any extra classes after that. I have to plan my recovery. I try to do a recovery bath every week. I'm pretty active, but I wouldn't say that's enough, honestly. If you are going to the gym and just attending classes, that planning takes me 30 minutes, I would say, maximum. Just need to schedule the classes, see how they fit around my office days, my hobbies, of course. Do not cut out your social life. What good is it going to do you if you become smart and you have no friends, right? Anyway, if you're doing that, you're going to pick up a sport. If you're already physically active, it should not be a problem to pick up a sport. I personally would recommend tennis, because I feel like it's not because I am playing tennis, but it's one of the reasons I picked it. And of course, it's very aesthetic and really cute outfits. I've been watching all tennis games, and I first watched Wimbledon games and I was enjoying them so much. So I tried to watch US Open, Australia Open, and because they're not in white, like off the green background like Wimbledon, I was not having it. Like, I was like, no, please, I'm gonna go back and watch Wimbledon because everyone is in white and it's so cute and aesthetic. Anyway, my vanity aside, yeah, tennis, every ball that comes to you, you would not believe how much mental acuity is needed for tennis. The position, the height at which you hold the racket, where to stand, whether to use a backhand or a forehand, it is so much. I get mentally exhausted when I'm playing tennis, but at the same time, it is so stimulating. Guys, oh my god, I fucking love tennis. It's really hard to believe that at my age, I'm still, like, I can find a hobby and be in love with it like this. It is obviously expensive to play. I'm not going to ignore that, but I'm lucky that my work offers gym allowance, so I managed to use that and then supplement from that. But I would say after about 5 lessons, I could hit the ball and enjoy myself. It was just my decision to keep on taking lessons and become better. What I'm trying to say is, a single person sport, I think that might be it. That's my theory. Because if you're playing football, it's still great. Please, if you can play football and you will not enjoy tennis, play football. I'm not discouraging that. I'm just trying to say, for the specific reason of improving mental acuity, when you're playing on a team, you carry the mental burden of scoring across 11, 12 people in a football team. 11, including the kick. 11, yeah. Across 11 people. While here, tennis, and actually tennis you can also have doubles, but even actually doubles are more engaging because each ball that comes you have to say, should I hit that or should I leave it to another person? Is it high enough? Is it low enough? How fast is it? Yes, I'm just rooting for tennis because it's what I like. But golf I've heard is really the same. It's pretty slow. You are loud, so you have to figure out how to get the ball in the hole. I think that's the goal. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. What other sport? Table tennis, of course. Pool table. Any sport is good. I'm just rooting for tennis because it's what I understand. Yeah, baseball is pretty mathematical, but where am I sure I get to play baseball? I'm assuming you're watching this. Sorry, the police is going by and I have my mic, so I can't use my microphone. I'm so sorry. Anyway, yeah. So the point is, movement will not only help you become more mentally alert through physically improving the health of your brain, it will also engage it so you can get that training that can be the equivalent of doing a few mathematical numbers, except you're also getting physical benefits. Like you're getting hotter and smarter literally at the same time. I can't think of a better deal. Besides, another point I would recommend for you to get better is, I wouldn't say it's a specific thing, but it's a method. Brain games. I talked about them before, and if I had to pick one brain game, I've played so many. I used to, before my brain started turning into mush, I used to play, and the one that has stuck with me for, I would say, 12 years now. Because I started playing it, I think, right out of high school. Yeah, and I still love it to this day. It's got like 20 games within the app. So you can switch out, they're all fun, they're all interesting, you don't feel like you're studying. But I tried Elevate as well. The problem with Elevate was it had paywalls, so all the fun things were behind paywalls. I think you couldn't even play more than one game if you're not paying for the app, which is just ridiculous. But there are many others that I tried, which were amazing. I will leave the link to download the one I use in the description, and you can try that. You won't regret it, I promise. Even if you're not like a super brainy, nerdy person, you will find at least one that you can enjoy and you can play even 3 minutes a day. I promise you it's going to make a difference to you, to your life, to your cognitive function. I downloaded these games because obviously we said about Alzheimer's and they say not using your brain is what, so that's what piqued my interest into keeping myself, into staying mentally alert. So that's why I got into these brain games and doing just things outside class, because I don't know, I feel like if I'm going to spend the last 20 years of my life in physical pain and all that, I would like to be mentally alert. And I have a great grandma who was a teacher. She's 93, 95 actually, maybe 97. And her mental, she's still perfectly alert. And yet I've seen other people at 70 with their brains declining, which I feel like I enjoy being alive because I'm alive, I'm alert. I can hear, I can sense, I can smell. So if part of that is taken away, then I don't want to sound morbid, but I'm not sure if I'm still living the way I want to live. Next point is to start a course. So if you find that you do not have the motivation to do any of those things on your own time, look at your role that you're doing, and then think, what's the next step you'd like to take in your career? Then go look up those jobs. This is the trick I use, but you can do it, you can use other methods. Then go look up those jobs and look in the skills description provided on LinkedIn or whatever job searching place Indeed, and then see what courses, certificates, whatever they're looking at. An easy one that almost everyone can use right now if you do digital work, of course, is AI. Take an AI course. I don't know if Google offers a course, but they're really good at offering courses to learn how to use their tools. So that's a really easy one if you don't want to think of what to do, but just go see how AI can be applied. Actually, you know what? AI is moving so fast at this point that even just using the tools, because I've been using ChatGPT and Claude and whatever since they launched, and I promise you, if you're just learning about it in theory, you wouldn't know. I was talking to about AI, and they have, I'm not saying they have no idea, but the things they're talking about are someone who uses these tools almost daily. Actually, this is also one point I'm going to talk about AI. It's like their reality is actually different from what is on the ground. They will say things like, oh no, the pictures are terrible. I've seen some of the pictures. I have a separate business and I generated all the product shoots using AI, all of them, and they looked amazing. And people are like, oh no, you can't do pictures yet, you can't do videos yet. I've used videos as well to create ads for some kind, and it's amazing. Like, it's so good. My point is, even playing around with the tools, maybe if they give you a task at work, please don't put confidential matter from your work into these tools, but just make up maybe a fake scenario and then try to make ChatGPT do it. For example, I'm a health content writer. I could maybe ask ChatGPT to develop a content strategy for 2026 with AI, ironically, still like from a website. I could ask ChatGPT to help me develop a strategy, and then you kind of walk through that and see how that can work for you. That's a really easy way, but of course that's not going to last long and it's not really going to quit you. But I'm sure, of course, we're going to start coming out on how to use these tools, and then you can do that. But you can also use the other method I told you. Just look through what the jobs are requesting for the job you would like to do next, and then find a course and do it and get a certificate in that. After work now, you have something to do instead of sitting around and scrolling on your phone. And AI, because I've touched on it, I might as well go into it. This one is an anti-habit, but basically I'm not going to tell you not to use AI, and I've just given you that advice. But I think I found a method that is working for me so far. So instead of asking ChatGPT to help me do things, I've developed a method which is, hey, I'm writing, let's say, an article like this on how to get smarter. This is what I have so far. So my goal is to come up with 10 points if I'm asking for points. And I have to use a hard number 10 because then I would get lazy and maybe do 3 and then ask it. It has to be 10 points. And then I say, give me 10 more. The idea is that once you get yourself to think about those 10 points, you are thinking. So this is not exactly a habit, but I know we're all going to start using AI tools in our lives. And therefore, I just wanted to give you a tip on how to use them so your brain does not, I don't know, this would our brain would disappear out of our heads. Next tip on how to get smarter is to get a creative hobby. Now, this is obviously a bit difficult for those of us who are not creatively inclined. You know, myself, I'm like that, but I'm going to start knitting because we were taught to knit in one of our home economics classes. Yeah, so I'm going to start knitting, but you can do pottery, but it's really expensive and messy. Knitting, beading, if you like hair, your friend's hair. If you like makeup, you can do your makeup. Just don't go down the path of just spending money on these hobbies and not doing anything with the things you buy. Just focus on one and do that. You don't even have to have a goal. I personally have a goal. I want to make a dress for either next summer or my birthday next year. So that's the goal of me taking on this project. I'll show you actually what I'm going to create somewhere here, and that's kind of my end point. And we're almost a year from that, so I feel like I have enough time to start. Yes. Finally, something fun is to watch long movies. So I'd say a long movie is 2 hours and more, but if you cannot do a long movie, you can do 2 short movies, 90 minutes plus 90 minutes. Our brains now are so used to instant gratification that even sitting through those first 30 minutes where the story is being played out has become difficult for most people, myself included, so no judgment here. So just sitting through a film and in analyzing that and internalizing that is already a step forward. Besides, we want to do this step by step. Actually, maybe I should have ordered these in a way that makes sense to do from where we are. But hey, for those who didn't watch the whole video, sorry. For those who are still here, movies I brought with you, that's how I started. When I noticed, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a movie. I thought I'd do a movie every day, but I'm like, okay, that's like a bit of overkill. But yeah, I was just like, if I just start with long form entertainment. I really loved YouTube, so that was not a real issue, and I don't really enjoy the video essays on YouTube as some of them are not like properly referenced and I can't know if they're feeding me wrong information. For the creators that I trust to give me correct information, I do watch the essays. For those that I don't know, I just find my information through other ways, email newsletters, Google as well, and websites. On the movies front, what I recommend is getting that theme. My themes that I'm going to do best picture winners, like best picture winners. I'm not sure what year I'm going to start. Maybe I don't know if I should work backwards or if I should work forward. I feel like working forward would make more sense. Maybe I'll start from 2000 and I'll do best picture winner every year, once per week. Then I also want to do women directed movies once a week. So that's already 2 evenings covered, which is amazing. I feel like once you've done that, the day's not going to come for you to do this, and then you're like, what should I see? And then you're going to scroll through Netflix for God knows how long. This is direct, it's clear cut, you already know what you're going to watch before you go, and when the time comes, you sit down with your food and you're getting entertained at the same time improving your concentration span and bringing yourself back to life and bring your brain back to life. I cannot think of a better win-win situation. Obviously, it's the first step, so don't use this as a long-term thing. I mean, of course, you could keep watching movies as entertainment, but it's not something that is going to sustainably improve your mental acuity. Yes. What could help perhaps is when you finish the film, maybe learning a bit more about it. For example, when you finish the film, if you love the actress in there, maybe you watch the rest of her movies. If you like the director, you watch his movies. If there's a book, you read the book. Now that is sustainable. If you do that for the rest of your life, that is a way to improve your mental acuity, because if you watch someone's film now, if you watch The Prince and then you watch Interstellar, you're going to see Anna Higginbotham and you're thinking, wow, she's got brains, what else does she have? And you're already thinking outside, just absorbing the plot. Because like, okay, this film, how did it do? What about this film? How did it do? What films did she do in between? So those things get your brain rolling and get you curious about other elements of life, which is why I recommend for short term, passively, but if you do it actively, long term, movies will never run out, and there's always themes you can follow. So many films, there's so many great filmmakers, Hitchcock, Tarantino. I forgot to mention Tarantino because his filmography is so brief and he's talked about everywhere. He's such an easy person to do. It's just 10 films. If you say this month I'm going to watch all of Tarantino's filmography, very easily doable, and the movies are everywhere on Netflix and Amazon Prime and whatever. Maybe you have to pay for a few and pirate. Hey, I'm not encouraging you to pirate because that's a literal crime, just plausible deniability, but that is something you can obviously do with it. And that's it for now. I will come up with more. I'll do a part to this. These are the things that have worked for me so far, so I'm going to venture into others, like creating. This is why Postman I say this channel, so I will probably have a part 2 in some time on all the other avenues I'm exploring. I'm really enjoying this, and I hope you can find a way to enjoy this too. Check out my channel, which is going to be on how to get your brain back from brain rot, and I will see you later.